Welcome into another edition of the FutureSox RoundUp. We are back. My name is Elijah Evans, joined today by one of my co-hosts, Dylan Barnas. We are pumped today. This has been a good week for White
Oh
Sox
yeah.
baseball. From top down, I think we're at right now. So we're really excited. This is going to be a fun episode. I think we're going to get into some cool stuff. It's going to be a little bit of a change of pace from our typical going through the minor league ranks. We're not going to talk about a ton of minor league guys, actually. We're going to get there towards the end of the episode. But the way we're going to do it today is we're going to start off by talking about the big news, which is Grant Taylor. And then we'll get into Kyle Teal's debut in the past week as well. And then we will make our way towards talking a little bit about the way this team is shaping up going forward. We've seen some growth and a lot of really positive signs in the past few weeks, especially. So we're going to talk a little bit of 2026 roster projection. And then we'll finish out by talking about kind of, as me and Dylan are both working through, starting to work on our midseason top 30s for the White Sox organization. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the guys that will be making their way onto the top 30 list for the first time. So that's what we're doing today. Dylan, how you doing, man?
I'm great. This was perhaps the most fun week of White Sox baseball that we've had since 2021. Between the Ishbia deal being like formally announced, like we all had expected. I don't think anybody expected it to be this soon. But then the CHSN being on Comcast, the good homestand where you go 4-3 against two playoff teams last year, and you split with the best team in baseball in the Tigers. It was a very fun week. Kyle Teal gets called up. Grant Taylor is now here. Uh, Maybe a bit too soon, but we'll see. He's going to be absolutely electric to watch. I can't wait to see the baseball world being introduced to what we've seen over the past year and a half.
Yeah. So Grant Taylor, we'll start there from everybody that's listening. James Fox, our guy, James Fox was able to break the Grant Taylor call up, which is awesome. He reported earlier today that Taylor was expected to join the club in Houston. Grant Taylor is so. This is such an interesting situation. It's very confusing, and it's been confusing to us all season because Grant Taylor, comes into spring training, shows out, looks like an absolute stud, and then going into the season, we're like, okay, this is going to be a three-headed monster in Birmingham. And then within the last month, right, we've seen Hagen Smith go down, and then we've seen Grant Taylor get shifted into the bullpen, right? So
Yeah.
what's interesting with Taylor is like you see Grant Taylor out of the bullpen, and like, is there a better reliever in minor league baseball? Like, I don't
No.
think so. I think
No.
he's probably the best reliever in minor league baseball. And for us at Just Baseball, I had like a 30-minute conversation with Arm about this, trying to kind of work on the top 100 because we had Grant Taylor at 99 initially. Arm had him at 99. And then I was talking to him, and he was like, I just can't quite justify a guy who's being penciled into the bullpen in his first season, first full professional season as a top 100 guy. He makes our Just Smith list. He's legitimately probably the 102, right, on our top 100,
Right.
right? So it was a tricky situation there. But like at the same time, like, is there just a world where, Grant Taylor is brought up as a reliever? Like in the comments already, we're hearing it, and he
Yep.
is worked in the next year or two to starting, and I think it's possible. It's just crazy, especially given how limited his innings have been and how much he hasn't thrown yet. That he got what I think was 3 starts in Birmingham this year, or 4 maybe, and then goes into the
Something like that.
bullpen, and then he goes into the bullpen, and he's been unbelievable in the bullpen. But it still, to me, is a little surprising to see this move come this soon. Like I thought maybe okay, they'll give him a cup of coffee after the deadline, let him have some relief innings because the arm will kind of already be at its innings. Kind of, you don't want to push the arm too far, and then next year he can come back to starting out of spring training. Now we've got a different situation where he's going to be in the big league bullpen for 4 full months at this point, probably, assuming things go well. Like I don't assuming things go well. Like I don't see things not going well. But like, we were both surprised for sure. But what was your initial
100%.
reaction to seeing that the move is happening this soon compared to later in the year?
I don't think that anybody was expecting it to be this soon. That you just said that, but my reaction was he has not thrown a lot of innings in his entire professional baseball career. In his college career plus his minor league baseball career, he has only thrown 77 innings. Like that is just absolutely nuts to go
77 is crazy.
to go less than 80 innings removed from high school to being a big leaguer. That is absolutely ridiculous, and it just shows how just stuffed up Grant Taylor is. And I like you said, I don't think there's a better relief pitcher in all of minor league baseball than Grant Taylor right now. In 9.1 innings since moving into the bullpen, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 1 walk, and 18 strikeouts. Like that is just video game numbers, and he's
It's
doing it
stupid.
like consistently. Like a base runner has not reached third base against Grant Taylor since he got to the bullpen. Like it's
It's
just
silly. It's silly. Yeah, and it's cool because you're gonna see the chance of of what it could look like at the big league level immediately, right? Like we're gonna get to see this 101, 102. Like I expect his first pitch to be 102, honestly. Like
Oh
he's
yeah,
that type of guy. Like
yeah,
Grant Taylor's a gamer. Like talking to him in Arizona this spring, like he is the type of guy who's gonna go out there and he's gonna give his absolute all stuff for an inning
yeah.
because he can, and it's going to be disgusting. Like it's going to be gross. It's going to be awesome. I still, there's still this part of me that wishes he was getting a full season of making 3 to 4 inning starts in the
Yes.
minors because it has worked before. I'm not saying it can't work. It's worked to do this thing where you have a guy be a reliever, eventually transition, build up the arm, become a starter. Like it has worked, and the White Sox have done it. So maybe that's part of why the White Sox feel comfortable because they have done this and seen this work now with two stuffed up, talented pitchers in the past handful of years. That doesn't mean it will work every time. And that's where I have a slight bit of concern there, just because I think this guy is too good to just be penciled into like, oh, he's our closer. And that's not to say closers aren't really valuable because, I mean, you look at the White Sox roster right now and the way this season has gone, right? Like, is it crazy to say that they'd have another 7, 8 wins if Grant Taylor was in the bullpen this season? Maybe that's a little, maybe 4, but like
Yeah.
there would be a handful of games they would have won this season if Grant Taylor was in that bullpen. I truly believe that. So
Yeah.
he's going to help them win. Do I still love the idea of Grant Taylor in a rotation one day that features Noah Schultz and Shane Smith
Oh yeah.
and like that is still tantalizing, right? So like I'm curious to see where it goes, but at the same time, like I can't help but be a little fired up that we're going to see the best reliever on this team probably in Chicago now.
Yeah, and I don't think that he's going to be a reliever. Like we've all heard Chris Getz and Brian Bannister say that like he could be one of the best closers in all of baseball, but he could also
Yeah,
be one of the best starters in baseball. And
he could.
you know, if it ends up being like, all right, he's a dominant closer for a year or so, and then gets moved into the rotation and is on the Garrett Crochet path,
Yeah,
perfect. That's fine. But there's just a little part of me that is nervous because, like I said, 77 innings removed from high school. I get wanting to save bullets and get your guys up quick so they don't burn out later on in their control years.
right.
But like this, it could be risky. I love it, but I'm very cautiously optimistic is
Yeah.
the term I would use.
Yeah, so I would agree with you. I'm in the same boat. I'm excited to see him, and I'm also a little bit still bothered that he hasn't been making starts all season because I expected him to at least get 3, 4 months of starts, even if they're
Yeah.
3 inning starts. There's a different atmosphere of starting. I mean, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We're going to get into this soon. This is a great question about kind of 2027. We're gonna dive into the 2026 roster for
Yeah.
now in a few minutes here, but I do want to get to Kyle Teal before we do that because Kyle Teal made his debut this past week. I didn't really think Teal was going to be up until maybe
No.
July, just because Corey Lee just came back. But in all honesty, man, like I've never been the biggest Corey Lee guy. I know a lot of people
Me
like
neither.
Corey Lee, and I don't think Corey Lee's a bad catcher. I think he's a big league backup, and that is something that's worth being somewhere, right? So the White Sox will either have him come back up and rotate in, or they're going to try to let him perform in Charlotte and move him in the next month or two before the deadline, right? Which is probably the more likely option at this point, I think. And Corey Lee's not a bad catcher, but Corey Lee does not have the upside of Kyle Teal or Edgar Carroll, right? So like at this point, like if those two have shown you everything they need to show you in AAA, let's just see it, man. And that's what the White Sox are doing. And I'm all for the Taylor move. I'm a little more hesitant on, but like the hitters who have proven they can hit AAA hit pitching, like I'm all for that, man. Like
Right.
I'm happy to see it, and I'm happy to see Teal. Like Teal's a guy too. Like I don't know how much you've looked into this a little. I just started kind of last week learning about it a little bit. Like his defense has improved a lot in the past year, which is great to see. Since that, even second half of last year, but especially the first half of this season, after this offseason, after the trade and everything, like he's grading out metrically as an average, actually slightly above average defensive catcher right now. So if you've got a at least average or better duo of 22-year-old catchers, sign me up, man. Couch
Oh,
is 23, whatever, 23 and 22. Like, I am happy to see those two catch every day. And I think that those two should be playing almost every day with that DH spot not being allocated anywhere right now. There's nobody on this roster that deserves a DH spot regularly, right? Like, that's not the case at all. So, like, these guys should be playing. It doesn't need to be every day, but like both of these guys should be playing 6 of 7 days, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the defense has improved, in my opinion, because of Walker McKinven, the
Yeah,
bench
it was a
coach
great
that
ad.
brought over from Milwaukee, and they turned William Contreras from like statistically one of the worst framers in
Yeah,
baseball to now he's like 95th percentile in
yeah,
framing. It's ridiculous what he did, for William Contreras and even Omar Narvaez in like the year or so that he was there in Milwaukee. He turned him into a framing god. Like what he did with Teal. I haven't looked at Caro's defensive numbers since he's gotten called up. I know the defensive numbers for catchers like league wide are down this year because like umpires are there's like a new like shade zone where
Right.
it's very weird how the whole like framing thing is going to go to the wayside, but also not, especially with the ABS system that could be coming next year, could be coming in 2027.
Yeah.
But either way, the fact that the fact that Teal's defense is improving as much as we've seen it improve is great for the organization because I mean you brought him over as maybe a bat first guy and you hope that he could be serviceable behind the plate, but now he looks like well rounded and that's just exactly what you want from a catcher, like a guy
Yeah.
who can hit and a guy who can hold his own behind the plate.
Yeah, man, I'm fired up about both these guys. I think that it's awesome to have them together too. I think it's only going to help the pitching staff also grow
Yeah,
with these guys. Like I talked about it with Sean Burke and Edgar Caro, right? Like Sean Burke has been massively improved over the past month, and all those starts that he's had really good starts have been with Edgar Caro, a guy that he
right.
worked with all of last year in Charlotte, right? Like there is, I know it's not a direct correlation always, but like there's something to be said for these guys working with the catchers that they know they're going to be working with for the next
Yeah,
5 years, right? You're not working with a
exactly.
filler. You're working with, and that's no offense to guys like Matt Dice and Chucky Robinson last year. Like those are good veteran catchers and they've been around the game, sure. But like these pitchers now know that they're going to be working with Kyle Teal and Edgar Caro, hopefully for a very long time, right? So that the rapport and that continued development that comes on both ends of that spectrum, I think is only going to help this team moving forward even more. So I'm excited. I think that this youth movement is here, man. It's here to stay. And I think I'm expecting. I've heard some rumblings. I will say I've heard that Brooks Baldwin is up soon, is back soon at least. And then I've also been hearing some stuff that if Colson Montgomery remains healthy, we could see him in the not so distant future. So it's
Yeah,
not going to be tomorrow. I don't think. It's right now. I think you need to see him healthy for a couple of weeks consecutively at the very
yeah.
least, right? But like since he came back from that Arizona trip, he looks a lot better.
Oh yeah,
The swing is adjusting. The approach is definitely closer to previous Colson than it was earlier in the year. It just comes down to staying healthy, right? The hand thing keeps getting hit by pitches and whatever.
yeah.
Like there keeps being all these little things setting him back. But like if we get the next 3 weeks of consistent healthy Colson playing at a above average, clip for himself, right? Like I would not be surprised, I'll say, to see Colson by the end of the month or so, potentially, if things go well for him. And then you've got, if Colson and Brooks Baldwin are back and you swap those two out for Capra and Palacios or Capra and Slater or whatever it is, exactly however they shake it out, right? Like you've got a team where
That's
more of the
fun.
lineup than not is really fun to watch. And the majority of the lineup, frankly, it becomes very fun at that point.
Yeah, and it's all guys that you would want on your team if this team ever wins a World Series. It's going to be these guys that are helping and contributing to that. Like the fact that Colson turned it around in what was it like a week, 2 weeks in Arizona. Like
Yeah.
it's great to see that somebody who was scuffling as bad as he was turn it around and be up in the big leagues potentially less than 2 months after hitting
Yep.
what like a buck 50 in like 2 months. Like
Yep.
it's just awesome to see. And if Colson does end up coming up before the end of the month, then I seriously don't think that a Noah Schultz is too far behind him. Like if we want to go full youth
Ooh,
movement,
man, I don't know about that one.
full
Maybe,
full
maybe.
youth movement, I could really see it. I mean, nobody was expecting the Grant Taylor move. If you want to go like fully like, all right, we're calling up everybody right now. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying that it's more likely to happen than not. All I'm saying is it's possible. It's an option.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I think it's possible for sure. I think that there's a real world where we see this become even more of a youth movement, especially after the deadline too, because we're going to
Yeah,
talk about it right now in a sec. But like, there's a couple guys that are going to get shipped, and then you really start to see the pieces come together, man. Like there is some pieces that are coming together, and you can see the vision for next season of what this looks like if these young guys continue to trend the right direction. If you get a Colson up, if you get, eventually you're going to get Noah Schultz up, right? Like there's it's coming together right now, and you're seeing it really start to add into piece by piece of this roster. So let's do this, because I want to do this, and I think I've been wanting to do this for a couple weeks, and I think this is the perfect time now with this move and everything going on right now. 2026 opening day. That is 10 months from now, a little under 10 months from now. The White Sox coming off this year the way guys are trending, obviously we don't know how some of these young guys are going to perform, right? Like there is a chance any of these rookies really struggle the rest of the season. There's also a chance some of them really take a huge step forward, right? Like we can't gauge exactly how rookies are going to perform. And for me, I don't put a ton of stock into guys in their first, 4 months of the league, right? Like yes, it matters. Of course, you want to see how they play at the big league level. But for some of these talents, like I am either confident or less confident already in their abilities, regardless of these next 2-3 months, right? But like looking into next year, I was thinking about it earlier and I was like, there's a lot of options and ways the team can go. And one of the unique aspects of it is the positional versatility that presents itself with a guy like Vargas playing third and first right now, with a guy like Mydroth very comfortable at short or second, with, the potential of Coulson at short or maybe third if he shifts that direction, right? With Brooks Baldwin, who plays all over the field, there's a lot of things you can kind of mix and match. So let's say it's 2026. We're in March. We've gone through free agency. Actually, no, we'll back it up. We're in November of this year. We're going into free agency. This team is coming off a season. Let's say the White Sox finish with 68 wins. That would be awesome,
Oh,
right? I
wow.
mean,
Okay.
I was going high. Honestly, I like where this team's playing. We could start at 62 if we want. We can start there at 100 loss team. That's probably about more realistic, maybe. But let's say it's 62. Sure. Going into next year, are you comfortable? We'll start positionally. Are you comfortable saying that Teal and Caro should be primarily catching and DHing for this team? Because I don't really see a need to add a pure DH, assuming those two are trending pretty well after the rookie seasons.
Yeah, if both of them can show that they're able to hold their own, both behind the plate and at the dish, like there's no reason for you to sign a solely DH guy that you're coming in to, hit homers. Like we all would love like a Kyle Schwarber because he brings power that the team hasn't seen since Konerko, Adam Dunn, the golden age of first baseman. But like if both of them are serviceable behind the plate and hitting, like there's no real need for one. And I think that if in a perfect world I wouldn't want one because I would want to see what those guys are capable of for an extended period of time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I think that those two should be your primary catching DH platoon at that point. And if there's somebody else that slots in that is an added player in the outfield or the infield that needs some DH reps, then sure, right? If it means those two are playing 5 or 6 days for 7 days a week, like that's fine with me. I think you can mix and match there a little bit, but I don't see a reason to sign an everyday DH guy, given that you want to get those two at bats more days than not right now. The infield is where I'm actually really fired up about the infield, man. And I think that the infield, like organizationally, the infield is in a better spot than it's been in a long time. I mean, you look down each level right now, and we've been talking about guys on this show, especially all season at each level that are middle infielders, especially that we really like, and even some corner guys as well. Like you've got, at each level, there's guys we're watching, right? You've got Coulson in Charlotte, right? You've got Brooks right there right now. In Birmingham, you've got guys like Ryan Galaney, Jacob Gonzalez, William Bergoya, and then you go down the level, you've got Antonacci, you've got Gerald Perez, you've obviously got Javier Mogollon, you've got Caleb Bonnemer. Like there's a lot of really fun infielders up and down this team. Most of those guys I mentioned there are not going to be 2026 guys though. 2026, the cool thing about the way this goes is Coulson, in my opinion, doesn't have quite the pressure of being a shortstop like he would have 6 months ago or a year ago at this point. Right. You've got Miguel Vargas and Chase Mydroth, who I'm essentially penciling in at this point to your starting infield. I don't, they both could be due for a little natural regression, but like both those guys look like everyday big leaguers for this team and key pieces of the future right now. The cool thing about Vargas and Mydroth is Vargas has looked comfortable right now at both third and first. He's been playing more first, and now Elko's up, so he's not playing as much first, but when there was the period where Elko was down, he was playing first. You've got that flexibility there where I think that, Vargas could be playing first or third. Meanwhile, Mydroth has looked better than I thought at short for sure. Yeah. He looks like he can handle that shortstop, and he also can play a very solid second base as well if you want to make that decision, right? So when Coulson comes up, the way that I look at it going into next year is Coulson can then play. If Coulson sticks at shortstop, awesome. Coulson sticks at shortstop. You've got Mydroth shifting to second base where he's a plus, at least above average defender, I would say, at second base. And then you have Vargas who can play third, and you can go out and sign a first baseman if Tim Elko doesn't, reach that ceiling. Or if you want to sign a third baseman, you can shift Vargas to first. Alternative situation, and then I'm going to let you run wild on this, is Coulson doesn't look great at short. You slide him to third, and that slides Vargas to first. Then from there, Mydroth can either play short and you can, platoon second base if Ramos looks good there, or if Baldwin looks good there, or if Sosa takes another step, or you sign a shortstop and you have Chase Mydroth be your second baseman. So there's so many options here where you can really go different directions with this infield. But for me, I'm penciling in Vargas, Mydroth, Colson, and then a free agent X, and then Baldwin and or Ramos as your utility kind of backup infield potentially.
Yeah, I think the two situations for me that like seem the most likely would be the situation that I would prefer the most is Vargas at third base, Colson at short, Mydroth at second, and then Elko's free agent, whoever at first base. Because then, you know, that means that Colson looks great at shortstop and he looks improved at in terms of defense than what we thought he was going to be. Like there were
Right.
people shoving him to third base the day he got drafted, which I think it sort of lit a fire under him, being like, all right,
Yep.
you think I'm a third baseman? I'll show you what I can do at short. But conversely, Chase Mydroth has been an absolute wizard at shortstop. Like he's got five outs above. He's got five
Does he
outs above
really?
average.
Wow, I
Yes,
didn't realize he was that high now. Wow.
he's in the, I think it's like the 95th percentile in outs above average. Like
All right, Chase.
he's a great shortstop defender, and I don't see like there's not a reason to move him off of shortstop unless Colson is holding
Right.
his own and you can move him back to his natural position of second. But the thing that was like sort of stuck out to me was Mydroth didn't play any short in AAA. Like it was Colson at short and
Right.
Mydroth at second. And that sort of tells me that the organization would like Colson to stick at short, but the fact that they're giving Mydroth innings at short now that he's up in the big leagues, it's a good problem to have because
Yeah.
the more athletic middle infielders that you can have is great. So what I think happens is Colson is at short, Mydroth is at second, Vargas is at third, and then Elko, whatever. But Colson at third, Mydroth at short, Vargas at first, and then that free agent or Baldwin, Ramos, Sosa, whoever at
Right.
second.
Sure.
Also a great option.
It's
Like
it is a super super cool position to be in because you can go a lot of directions and you can also let the free agent class to kind of speak to you a little bit more than
exactly.
this team has had the luxury to do. Like I feel like even with that 2021 core, man, like I feel like there was times where it was like you had to go for an exact spot because you needed it. The versatility on this team is a lot better than it was right
Yeah.
then at that point. And like that's the thing. Like yeah, if you need Baldwin to play some infield, sure. But like we're about to talk about the outfield, that's a lot less exciting right now, I would say, than the infield.
Yeah.
If Brooks Baldwin improves the defense and he's keep grinding there like he's doing in Charlotte, and he looks like he can play a corner outfield spot for you or some center field for you, great. Then you have enough infielders already that you can fill those holes, right? So it's like the infield is really interesting. I agree with this. I think that's the good point of mine I thought I was going to make is like I think that his instincts have always been pretty solid, but the arm has definitely been better. Ian makes that point here. That's for sure. I think the arm looks better than anybody really expected. I think that was the concern with shortstop was that the arm strength wasn't quite at the level you want for your everyday shortstop, and like he's shown that it's doing. He can get the job done at shortstop. So it gives the White Sox a lot of options. Looking at the free agent class before we move to the outfield, it's a weird class. There's a lot of, opt outs, right? So the biggest thing is like, okay, Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, they are on these weird, lucrative short term contracts from this past
Right.
offseason that they signed. I think that it all depends on how they perform. Right now, it would look like Bregman would opt out probably. Probably both would opt out right now, but
Yeah.
Alonso's regressed a lot from a really crazy April, right? Like there's some interesting dynamics there, but then like Reese Hoskins, I'm down. Like
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Or even like a Geno Suarez. I've mentioned that to you before. I think if
Mhm.
you got Geno Suarez, that's a guy who plays third but is getting older, so you can shift him to first. He can kind of switch off at third and first if you want to do that. He can take the 2 days a week at a DH where you want to give both, Teal and Carroll each one off day, right? Like that's a really nice option there. I think Brandon Lau is a decent option. He's a club option, so
100%.
he might get that picked up. But I wouldn't mind Brandon Lau. That's a guy who's played second and first in his career. There's a lot of possibilities. Gleyber Torres is going to be a free agent again. Like if you think it works with Vargas at
Yeah.
with Vargas at first and Colson at third, like we talked about, right? Then Gleyber
Mhm.
Torres second base. Like I'm open to that for
Sure.
sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pretty interesting infielders. You could take a swing at a Bo Bichette if you wanted to. I'm not a huge Bo Bichette guy. I've never been quite my cup of
Yeah.
tea. But I also think that wouldn't be a bad swing to take there. I think there's some logic that could play into that mix there. If you want to get another guy who can play short, he can slide to second if you want him to. Is there anybody that you really would love for this infield? Because I think there's really actually a pretty good amount of options that would fit pretty well with the rest of the infield group.
I don't think that there's like one option is miles and miles better than the rest, but like the guys that you
Yeah.
mentioned, like Suarez would be like my ideal pick because I mean we've seen how he can just tear the cover off the baseball and he goes on stretches where he hits like 15 homers in 2 weeks or something ridiculous like that. But if he ends up shifting to first base as he slows down, I mean he's what like 32, 33, he's getting up there in age. But
Yeah.
like in my opinion, he's the perfect candidate for like a 2-3 year deal, maybe somewhere in the range of 70-80 million dollars. And for the White Sox,
Yeah.
sounds like it's like a cheap deal in terms of like the overall landscape of the league. But for an $80
Hey, the
million deal
Ishbia
for the
era,
White
man.
Sox,
The Ishbia era.
yeah, bring me Kyle Tucker on a $700 million deal.
Yeah, right. Somebody mentioned Josh. Two different people mentioned Josh Naylor as well here. I don't. I hate Josh Naylor internally because he's Josh Naylor.
Yeah,
But it's not a bad idea. I don't think it's a terrible idea to get a first baseman who rakes like him. And his offensive production has remained really steady the past couple of years. Honestly, I don't love it, but like it feels weird because he's such a White Sox like enemy. But sometimes those guys fit, man.
I just I tend to like look at what other organizations think about him or what other organizations think about players that they've recently traded, and especially the Guardians. They're one of the smarter organizations in the league, and the fact that they gave up on him, I'm not saying like giving up on him, but like it opened up areas for like Kyle Manzardo, other first baseman
Sure.
only type guys, but his bat speed has really declined this year. I'm not
Has it?
sure if he'd be a like great fit like long term. If you sign him to like a two-year deal and then see what he gives you, sure. But I wouldn't hand out a 5-year deal to Josh Naylor
Yeah. No, that's
this
fair.
offseason.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Probably, I think that's a little bit of a riskier one. So either way, though, I think we're both in agreement. Like this is a good spot for the infield
Oh yeah.
collectively. Like the progress we've seen from Vargas and the breakout we've seen from Mydroth, in addition to hopefully Colson getting himself into a good spot here and ready to really help this team in 2026. Like I think it's a pretty good position infield wise. You don't need to sign someone, but I would really love to see one of those guys we mentioned in this list be brought in a deal, just because it makes your team that much deeper if you have guys like Baldwin and Ramos as your depth bench guys instead of a possible starter. Even
Right.
Elko as well. Like I know, I think a lot of people are super enjoying Temelko, and I love Temelko. A Class
Yeah.
A dude, leader. I hope he sticks around on this team. I'm not penciling in Temelko as an everyday player for this team. I don't see that right now. I think it's possible in the next few months that we get to that
Yeah.
point. But as of right now, I still think adding an infielder in one place to mesh with that Vargas, Mydroth, Colson, and Baldwin, etc., would be a really good position for this team. However, there might need to be some more spending done in the outfield, in which case I'm okay with prioritizing that over another infielder, because outfield right now, you've got Mike Tauchman, Andrew Benintendi, Luis Robert Jr., Austin Slater, and Michael A. Taylor. Tauchman is low-key going to get a package at the deadline, which is crazy. But Mike
Yeah.
Tauchman is absolutely mashing this season. I've loved watching it. I think there's like a slight part of me that's like, screw it, give Mike Tauchman another year. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I do think they probably flip him at the deadline. Realistically, I don't
They
think
should.
that he sticks around past the deadline. I think you got to capitalize on a soon-to-be 35-year-old, outfielder, veteran, journeyman.
34. Oh my
He's
god.
34 and he turns 35 this season. So he'll be going into next year, he'll be 35. You probably flip Tauchman.
Yeah.
He's hitting exceptionally well. Like the numbers are just ridiculous right now, even in a limited sample, right? So assuming you flip Tauchman, what are we doing with Luis Robert Jr., man? What is the I don't you can't pay that hitter $20 million next year.
No.
Especially for a team that needs to start actually adding proven hitters, right? Like I just feel like with Andrew Vaughn probably gone, I don't see any way Andrew Vaughn sticks around past this season. Maybe he comes back up this year, but like it's probably over. Luis Robert Jr. is the last guy that is from that previous core. I just think it's time, man. I think it's time to leave it in the past and call it a day. And at the end of the day, I think you just try to get whatever you can get for him at the deadline. And you just chalk it up and you say, it sucked. We didn't get more for him. We should have sold earlier probably. But at the same time, you can't decline. I mean, you can't take that option the way he's hitting right now. So if you don't trade him, then you're maybe taking a terrible option, or you're declining an option and getting nothing. So at this
Right.
point, I think you just trade him for 20 cents on the dollar at the deadline, and it's an L, but you just say, all right, we're done with that
Yeah.
core. Andrew Vaughn's gone, Luis Robert's gone, and this is a new generation of White Sox baseball, and that has to come from doing something with Luis Robert Jr. So for this sake of this argument, I don't think he's on this team. I think you
No.
either trade him or you end up declining the option, which would really suck to get nothing for Luis Robert Jr., but you can't pay him $20 million the way he's hitting right now.
No, I think what's the buyout, 5 million, something like that. So like
Yeah, I think it's
either
either
way,
3 or 5, yeah.
yeah, you're paying him to not be on your team, or you trade him and get a couple flyers. Like there was earlier on in the season, that was like the ask was like 2 of a team's top 5 prospects, which I think that's crazy because
No
yeah,
way.
you're hoping that they buy on the ceiling, but like right now, this is the floor. He's played at his floor for almost like 200 games now. I just
Yeah.
don't think that a team is gonna be able to pony up to the deal that Getz wants, and I just don't think that they would want to be on the hook
Yeah.
for the buyout,
The
especially.
buyout's only $2 million. So
Okay,
honestly,
so
maybe they take
maybe
that chance. It's
maybe
you hate giving losing a player at 28 years old who's supposed to be one of your core superstars, right? Like that sucks. Like that's not, you don't want to do that. So it's like, I think you just hope he has a decent June and July,
yeah,
and you flip him for something and you call it a day. At the end of the day, like I think that you have to get something, and I do think that a team in serious contention would still trade one decent prospect and
right,
a flyer, maybe, right? Like it's probably a top 10 to 15, top 10 system guy, maybe, in
yeah,
addition to a 17-year-old flyer, right? Like it's probably that type of deal, right? Like I'd rather take the upside than, I think you're in one of the situations where you're probably getting a established but struggling with something player, or a lotto ticket 18-year-old with a ton of talent. I'm taking the 18-year-old personally. I think that right now I'd rather just, if for his situation we're in with him, I'd rather just get the upside guy and see what happens, and put some guy in the Ryan Fuller lab and just get to work and see what it does. I'd rather do that. But at this point, like, you get something for Luis Robert. I think that's how we can look at it going into next year, right? But he's not on this roster, and I don't think Mike Tauchman is either. Andrew Benintendi, I think, sticks around.
probably.
I think
I would say so.
you could try to trade him at this point, which is crazy to say after you look at the way his career with the White Sox
Maybe,
started. But like,
maybe.
you could maybe get something for Andrew Benintendi. Like the longer you get from when he signed that contract, the less money $17 million looks like, right? Like it becomes less and less of a scary contract as time goes on,
Right.
and everybody gains money over time. But I do think he sticks around, and I do actually think Benny's a pretty decent piece for this team. I think that he's shown the ability to be a different style of hitter than a lot of the other guys in this organization right now. And, it's not a ton of power. It's still, there's no standout like, oh, that tool is amazing. But I do think he can be a piece for this team at the very least, and be your left fielder, and you feel okay about that going into next year.
Yeah, and like since he's come back from that injury last year, it was like a broken hamate bone in his
Right.
hand. Like he's looked like very good. I don't want to say very good, but
He's been a
very
good
good.
player. Yeah.
Yeah, compared to the Andrew Benintendi that we saw, he's been better than I expected, honestly. But if somebody is going to take his contract and
Yeah.
don't have to pay him, sure, fine, trade him. But if he ends up sticking around on the 2026 roster, sure. Like it's not like he's not a
Yeah.
liability in the field, but he's been better as of late, especially hitting at the top of the lineup, and he's being able to set the table for the
Yeah.
younger guys down the lineup. Like it's been kind
100%.
of refreshing. It's been refreshing to watch like an actual hitter hit third for the White Sox,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
it's been solid for Benny.
So let's say we've got Benny in left field still. I do think he sticks around. I think
Yeah,
somebody's mentioned that Tauchman could stick around. I think Tauchman's a good veteran. I don't think it's likely. Maybe he does, but
maybe.
generally speaking, I'm only penciling in for now Benny in left field. You got 2 outfield spots to fill. The minor league depth in the outfield is not quite there. You got some lower level guys you're really excited about, and you're hoping Braden Montgomery is ready to be a piece. I know a month ago we were talking about Braden Montgomery opening day roster. Like, I'm not ready to say Braden Montgomery opening day roster, and that's not because I don't like Braden Montgomery and think he's super talented. I do still think there's some things with his swing to figure out for him. I think we've seen that the past few weeks. It's been a rough few weeks in Winston. I'm not overreacting and saying he's 3 years off, right? But like,
Right.
I don't think you can look at next year and say, if you want this team to take a step and be competitive, I don't think you can say Braden Montgomery penciled into the opening day roster yet. I just don't think we're there. So if we're not there, you got center field and you got right field, and you got to fill those spots because right now you look in the minors, and I think Brooks Baldwin will be a piece there, but I still think Brooks Baldwin is best being the rotating utility, the better Lurie Garcia or the white Lurie Garcia, as some people say on Sox Twitter, right? Like, we'll see. I think he's could be a better hitter than Lurie Garcia, honestly. I do think he
100%.
can be, but I still think he's best in that utility role. So if you're looking at the outfield right now, Michael A. Taylor, no. Austin
No,
Slater, no. I think maybe you can get something for Taylor at the deadline. Probably not. You're probably not getting anything for either of those guys at this
doubt
point.
it.
Maybe something, but I doubt it. I don't think either of those guys are sticking around. Looking at the minor league depth, it's not great. Corey Yolks, Dominic Fletcher, Zach DeLoach, Drew Baker, maybe. I don't think there's
Eh,
anybody in that list who you want as a starting outfielder next season. That's where I would be at with that. So then, free agency. I'm not even entertaining the Kyle Tucker discussion. Sorry to anybody who's about to comment
Oh,
that or
come
might consider
on.
commenting that. I'm not doing it. I think that as much as we've talked about Kyle Schwarber, right, that's more of a DH guy. He's not really
Yeah.
playing the outfield at this point in his career. Are you taking a swing at Cody Bellinger if he opts out this offseason?
I would, but what's his opt out? Is it
His
just
opt out
like,
is his opt out is not that. I think he might opt out. He's having a sneaky, pretty good last
yeah,
couple. He started really slow in the last like month or two. He's been really solid. He's also a Boris guy who I definitely could see an opt out. The opt out, so it's a 27 and a half. He's probably staying on that, or
yeah.
yeah. Oh no, 25 next year. This year was 27 and a half, and then 25
Is
next
he
year.
getting is he getting more than 25 million from any team? I
Probably not,
I
but
doubt
he's
it.
only
I
he's only
doubt it.
29, man. That's the one thing I kind of forget with
Yeah,
Bellinger. He's
but
turning 30 this year.
I
Probably
don't
not,
think so.
but
I don't think so because I think
so then
he's gonna want to look for a
yeah,
longer term contract. Like I think he
right.
was looking for that last off season, and
He
then
was hoping to get
he got what he got from the Yankees or
right,
from the Cubs, and they traded him to the Yankees and that. But
right.
like I don't think that a team is paying him more than $25 million to be their
Yeah.
center fielder. Like, yeah, he's good, but I
No, I
don't
hear
think
you.
he's 28, $30 million good.
So then it gets a little tricky, man. Like Cedric Mullins, Michael Conforto, Mike Yastrzemski, Trent Grisham, Max
I
Kepler,
I
Trent
I could get
Grisham.
on board. I could get on board for Trent Grisham for $12 million.
Ugh,
I could
ugh.
get on board. Look at his season. He's having a
Yeah, his season's been
sneaky good
good, but this
season.
is Trent Grisham's been the king of like flashing, looking good, and then going back to being meh his whole career. I feel like, and this might be a little different. It looks like he's taking some strides this year, but like, I have a hard time with the Trent Grisham one.
Yeah,
I can see it.
I'm not saying paying him like
Right, right.
$40 million a year and you lock him up for 8 years. Like, no. But if like 2 year deal, 45 million in total,
Yeah, someone asked
I
if
don't
Nishida will
hate
be a
it.
bench piece. I don't see Nishida being a bench piece, to be honest. I think he could be at some point, but
He's fun.
next year probably not. He's fun, but he's also got like a 650 OPS in Double A right now. I maybe, but I'm not penciling that in. I just wanted to
No.
answer that question because I noticed it pop up. But Grisham maybe, but my point from looking at that list is like it's a pretty ugly class for
Yeah.
outfielders. So what does that look like then to become, to go from there and see where the White Sox are at? You got to get a legit outfielder. I think you can piece together a third spot if you have Benintendi penciled in and you get a legit piece. Then you can have that third spot be something, whether it's a combination of Brooks or more of a veteran ad, more some of those kind of you try to buy on a Tauchman type of guy and hope they hit, right? Like I wouldn't hate shit, trade Tauchman and bring him right back. I don't know. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
But Randall Grichuk, like Austin Hayes, there's some okay Lane Thomas. Like there's some filling guys there you could make for a third spot. I want a second outfielder that is legit. And I think that's where it gets complicated for this team because you got to find someone to pencil in there. And I don't know who that is. And that's why I think the tricky situation with Luis Roberts is like, okay, if you don't get anything at the deadline, you just pick up the option and say Luis Roberts or center fielder. But it's like,
Yeah.
if there's nobody you think you can get on the market, then maybe that does happen. I just think it would be ideal, obviously, to get a very solid piece. Somebody asked about Ike Irish. I don't know if Irish can or has played
I
much outfield. I don't. I think
I
I've seen him
wouldn't.
listed as like a potential, guy to slide into right field because he has an arm, but I'm not sure if that's the best
No.
option there from what I
No.
know.
Well, Kyle Teal was also listed as a catcher slash outfielder, and
Right.
he has played, I think, like a game in the outfield, and it was
Right.
like because an outfielder got hurt, he had to go out there. Like,
Duran. Someone mentioned Duran. Duran's a club option, so Duran is definitely
yeah,
not getting to free
yeah,
agency. If anything, he would get traded, but there's no chance an $8 million club option on Jaron Duran gets declined.
yeah.
That's not happening. So he's definitely going to be either with Boston or in a trade package. I mean, not saying Duran necessarily. Like, I mean, are you about to say trade for Duran? Screw
No,
it.
no, I was saying trade for another outfielder. Like, I don't have a name,
I
but
would have a name from the same team.
William
Wilyer
Abreu.
Abreu. I could get
Bingo.
behind a Wilyer Abreu trade for
Yep.
sure. I mean, Boston is in a ridiculous crunch right now where
Oh
they got to
yeah,
figure out what to do with that team. I mean, Roman Anthony gets called up today. Good for Roman Anthony. And finally, about time.
yeah.
Only because of an injury to Wilyer Abreu, though. They got to get rid of somebody in that outfield. I don't know what they're going to do there because Cedane Rafael has been a lot better the past month.
Yeah.
Roman Anthony's up. You've got Duran. You've got Campbell. That team is just like, I don't get how they're not good. It's so confusing. But
Their
regardless,
pitching is awful.
it is. Davis Martin and then some for Jaron Duran
I'm all in. I am all in on that. I would love that.
or Abreu. Pardon me,
Yeah,
not even Duran. I should Abreu is that's what somebody just said. I was like, I
yeah.
said Duran, but I meant Abreu.
I'm all
I
in.
could get
Give them.
behind that. I could get behind that.
Yeah,
I think it's very possible, and I think that you're gonna have to get creative with getting it if you want a legit, not doesn't need to be a superstar. I mean, Kyle Tucker's not happening,
right.
but if you want a borderline all-star level talent in this outfield next year, which the White Sox, it would really take this team to the next level in terms of being, fun bad to being like a decent young team,
Fun.
like
Right.
a decent young team, like you're gonna have to hit the market, I think, and that's what's tricky.
Yeah.
Is like maybe Cedric Mullins, but like I don't love the Cedric Mullins. I think you'd end up overpaying for him on this market.
Right.
Like I think there's really not a free agent that quite fits the White Sox. In which case, you might have to make a deal, and I'm okay trading from the strength of the pitching, honestly, to make
Yep.
that happen. If it means a legit outfielder who you can add to this core, and then you look at this team and you're like, okay, even if it's not opening day next year, you've got a Benny ex outfielder and filler eventually Braden Montgomery outfield. Like
Yeah.
that's a pretty fun outfield. So maybe it's not a Abreu. There's plenty of other guys that it could be out there. I think there's other pieces you could look at. Who knows which teams are going to end up selling, which teams are going to end up whatever in the next few months. But like you're going to have to get creative to get a legit outfielder. But I think that is the number one need for this team ahead of this 2026 season.
Yeah, and I think that if you don't sign or trade for a legit outfielder that you can pencil in every day for the next year and beyond, I think that you could see Braden Montgomery as the opening day right fielder, center fielder. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
it would be. I'm not saying that it would be the smart move, but
No, it's possible. It's very possible.
It's possible because if they think that he's ready, and there's nobody else out there, like it's either him or like Zach DeLoach. Like, give me Braden Montgomery. Like,
Yeah,
I would much rather see him.
But even if that Braden Montgomery spot means signing a Max Kepler or a Lane Thomas for the interim, right? Like that's fine too.
Yeah.
I think that's an okay situation. If you have a corner outfield spot that you say, okay, this will be Braden soon. For now, it's going to be this guy for a couple months. Maybe they have a hot start like Tauchman, you flip them. If not, then whatever, you call it a day. That's fine. We'll come back to this. We're going to have these conversations over the next 8 months for sure. So I'm ready to keep talking about this in the future. But for now, we'll slide over to the pitching side of things, and we'll go speed through this a little bit because I do think the pitching is in a good spot, and also just a lot of question marks still with the TJ guys. Like there's still just so many guys that are going to be kind of we'll see what happens, which makes it a little tricky on the pitching side of things. Who are you right now in the rotation looking at and saying, okay, you're in the rotation like next year?
I think Shane Smith has pretty much locked himself down as like the guy that you're not trading him. Like I think that any of the other starters, I'm not saying that they will get traded, but if somebody offers you a legit package for Davis Martin, Sean Burke, Jonathan Cannon, I would not be opposed to trading any of those guys. But I would be more than comfortable with any of those three that I just mentioned being in the rotation for next year and being more than serviceable, because we've seen the rotation, how good it's been. Like 24 and 2/3 to scoreless to start the year from the rotation. Like that I'm not saying it's
and then some ups and downs in April, and then the past month it's been a pretty good staff.
Really good.
Like obviously that 5 spot has been a total toss, and then until Adrian Hauser came along, and that's another guy who I think you can somehow out of nowhere get something for at the deadline, which is awesome. Like
pick them off the street.
Exactly. So I think you're in a cool spot here where, I think, yes, to answer this question, I think Shane Smith not only could be, I think Shane Smith will be
Yeah,
the opening day starter next year,
yeah,
honestly, which is insane that given that he's a Rule 5 guy. Like, that doesn't happen. Great talent evaluation by the White Sox and finding something and then continuing to tweak Smith's arsenal. Like, his development of his changeup has just been like, I mean,
nuts.
it's crazy. It's crazy to see what it's done. From talking to him in Arizona in the second I was there, the third week of spring training, and he was kind of just like, oh, I'm really starting to find the groove for this pitch. And
Right.
like now you're like, okay, this guy's been throwing this pitch, it looks like for 5 years, and he just learned it last year, right? It's pretty crazy. But anyways, so let's say for the sake of this, three of those four. I think there's a world where either Cannon or Martin gets traded. I don't think Sean Burke's getting moved at this point. I
I
think that
don't
there's
think
still
so
a
either.
lot more to figure out there. And I think that, he's even younger than a Davis Martin, right? Significantly a couple years. Let's say three of those four guys, whether it's obviously Smith and then two of the three between Cannon, Martin, and Burke. I think Martin is definitely the most likely to be traded. We've been talking about this. I think that Martin for a legit bat is a very logical trade from a strength aspect trade that the White Sox could make. It would be hard, right? Davis Martin's been a White Sox for a while. Like, he's a fun piece, of course. If three of those guys are locked in, what does the rest of the rotation look like beyond those guys? I mean, I don't think you really need to externally add or out a
No,
starter. I'm just trying to think
no,
through,
no, no.
opening day, like Noah Schultz, hopefully, right? Like that's
Definitely.
hopefully there. Yeah.
Yes, I would say Schultz, and then pick whoever is your favorite of the TJ guys. It could be Thorpe, it could be Adams,
Yeah.
it could be
I mean, even if we
Guy
could see
Bush.
Hagen really pick it up too in
Yeah,
the second half too. You never know,
you never
right? Like
know.
he could really find his groove too. So
Yeah, like there's a lot of options between the TJ guys
yeah,
and the minor league guys that could come up this year, and they could earn a rotation spot. And
yeah,
it could be guys that like we aren't even in on yet. Like Davis Martin, if you told me last year at this time that Davis Martin would be a 3.4 ERA guy and pitching in the rotation consistently and being one of the more fun guys to watch in the rotation, I wouldn't have believed you, because he was coming off of injury, and
yeah.
he was solid before injury, but now he's a completely new pitcher. But there's a lot of different ways to go with the rotation, and I think that
Yeah.
is one of the more fun areas of the team to sort of predict and
Right.
plan for the future, because there's so much that could happen.
Right. And then you've got the cool aspect, and this is why we don't need to talk about pitching much. We spend most of our time on hitting because the pitching is in such a cool spot that like
Right.
a couple of those guys can end up being bullpen guys, right? Like you've got options to slot into your bullpen. I think right now, I mean, who from this team? Okay, so let's say Grant Taylor's one, assuming that he's still in the bullpen next year and he's still working his
Yeah,
way up.
that's
to being
another
a
guy.
starter.
Like, come on.
Right. He could be starting by next year if things go. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe not next year. Maybe it's 2027 where he's starting, or maybe it's halfway through next year. Like, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but let's say Taylor's up there. Beyond Taylor, who else in this bullpen do you think would be kind of the guys you're looking at to still be there next year? I know it's been some ups and downs. I know he hasn't done good in leverage. I still think Jordan Leisure is a
Yeah.
reliever on this team. I really do. I think the stuff has been better this year than last year. He's ticked up in velo. He's slowly finding a feel for that splitter. If he can really get that splitter down,
Oh, yeah.
in addition to his fastball slider, and he can stop throwing middle fastballs sometimes, that would be great. I do really believe. I don't think he's a closer, and I don't think he should
No.
be looked at as a closer. But I do think Jordan Leisure should be in this, on this roster. I think Mike Vassell has definitely earned a spot
Yep.
on this roster going forward. Mike
Yep.
Vassell sneaky just turned 25. I did not realize that. I thought he was like 26, 27 for some reason. Just
Yeah.
turned 25 at the beginning of the season or earlier this season. So that's a guy who I think you're penciling in, right? So you've got Vassell, you've got Leisure, you've got Grant Taylor. That's three. Steven Wilson? Are you trading Steven
I
Wilson?
I go back and forth because
I do too. Yeah.
he's got like what, like still 3 more years of
He's got,
service, 3 more years
I
of
think he's
control
got
after.
2 more years of ARB after this year. Maybe it
Yes,
might be
okay.
3 actually. Yeah.
If it's 2 or 3s, regardless, you still have him under contract.
Yeah,
for
he's got
next
3
year.
more years after, or no, 2 more
Yeah.
years. So 2026,
Yeah.
27. Yeah.
Right, like you would still have him under contract for next year and a year beyond. So like
Right.
if you do end up tacking him on to a Davis Martin trade, sure. But if he ends up sticking around, I think he's been probably the reliever I trust most out of the bullpen.
Right.
If it's a close game, I would be more than happy
Which is
seeing
crazy
him.
based on after last year to think about.
Yeah,
But
if you told like Steven Wilson being the most trusted guy for me, similar to Davis Martin, I would not have believed you. But
yeah.
there's a lot of guys coming off of injury too, like Prelander Baroa. He got TJ
Right.
in the
I
spring.
forgot about Baroa. Baroa's nasty.
Exactly.
Dude.
Like if he comes back, he could be a legit 8th, 9th guy. Like he looked great in his limited, or I want to say great, but he looked really solid in his limited innings that he got last
Yeah,
year.
for sure.
But then
Am I
beyond that,
still a little nuts for being in on Cam Boozer? I think a lot of people are out on him. I'm not out
yeah,
on Cam Boozer yet,
I'm
personally.
not either.
I might be a little nuts, but like 11 Ks per nine, the walk rate's higher than last year. But I think if you get the walk rate down a little bit for a Boozer, this is a guy who has. I think the stuff in general is pretty solid. Again, that's
Yeah,
not a guy you want as a high leverage guy, but I'm totally cool with Boozer being an earlier innings, type of guy, for a mid relief guy for this team as a left hander who throws some junk, right? Like I think that's a fine piece. So then from there, you've already got 4 or 5 guys. I think you factor in some minor league guys, right? You got an Addison Coffey. I think Peyton Pillette, I think you can borderline
yes,
pencil in. I was going to say Coffey and Adler are the two where I still am like not sure you're penciling those guys. I think Pillette you can pretty much pencil
yeah,
into that bullpen. So then we're already at 5, 6 relievers potentially. This is where it gets interesting. I generally do not say spend on relievers. We've both agreed on this.
yes.
You don't
But
spend on a reliever. But spending on a closer is different from spending on a reliever, the way that I
right,
look at it. Welcome Gonzalez, thank you. That's another one that we should definitely mention. I think
yeah,
Kelman Gonzalez should be in the bullpen next year if things go well for him, the way he's thrown lately.
Hyro
Hyro,
potentially
maybe.
too,
I'm a
maybe.
little discouraged by
It,
Hyro these days, but
yeah,
yeah.
but
So
it's an
back to
option.
my initial point. Those guys, you've got a makings of a pretty decent bullpen, to be honest, and better than this season for sure. Next season's free agent class, Dylan. I just want to give you a little perspective on this one.
I know one of them, Helsley.
Yeah, Edwin Diaz, Devin Williams, Ryan Helsley, Andres Munoz is a club option, so he's not going anywhere, unfortunately.
No.
Robert Suarez has a player opt out.
Hmm.
And then there's a bunch of others. Luke Weaver is a free agent. That's a sneaky, amazing. Aroldis Chapman, Kenley Jansen, Pete Fairbanks as an option. I mean, it is Kyle Finnegan. There is a nasty class of relievers this season. And as much as I don't love spending on relievers, get a big one. Screw
Yeah.
it. Get a big
Yeah.
one for this team. I mean, I would give Robert Suarez would be the one personally that I would give a bag to. I would say,
Yeah.
you know what, Suarez, come on down. We have the nastiest 8th, 9th in baseball with Grant Taylor and Robert Suarez. Call it a day. Like, I mean,
Right.
who is touching that? I mean, you're just like, I'm
Nobody.
dreaming in my head. I'm like, my head is starting to dream, right? I'm like, you get Noah Schultz shoving or Shane Smith shoving for 6 innings. And then you
Oh.
have to go from those two to
Oh
either,
my God.
either a Paulette or all these other options in the middle relief. And then you get to the 8th and 9th, and you've got 103 back-to-back innings from Grant Taylor and Robert Suarez. Like, I don't love spending on relievers, but like the way this team is in right now, you prioritize getting a bat or two. You have to prioritize, whether it's trading or anything, getting a bat, particularly a legit outfielder. Ideally, you get a legit outfielder and a legit infielder. You fill out that lineup really well. You don't need to spend, yeah, Ian says, yes, I agree with this. Like,
Yeah.
we all hate the idea of Grant Taylor being a bullpen arm right now, but then you start to put it in perspective and you look at this bullpen and you look at this rotation and you're like, again, this is me being a little excited. I think we're both a little fired up right now, but like,
Yeah.
is there a world where the White Sox have a top 10 pitching staff in baseball next season? Like overall, like I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's likely. There's a world. Luke Weaver, that's another one we mentioned. Yeah. There is so many guys that because you don't need to address this rotation at all, and because you have a lot of these guys coming back from injury, coming up through the minor leagues, right? Like, go get a freaking closer. I'm like, and that part of that, I know people really are upset that they didn't get a closer this year. You look at this free agent class next year, man, and I kind of understand it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
that's like 10 of the game's best 15 closers that are free agents next year's. Like, go get one. Go get one,
Right.
White Sox. Let's do it. So that, we'll finish on that in terms of this roster projection. We're not even going to get to our other segments today, mostly because we were just getting after it today, and this was fun. It's a legit outfielder, the versatile option of adding an infielder, whether it be third, short, or first, and a closer. Man, that's three moves that make the White Sox an average MLB team next year, and a really good and a really young average MLB team next year. Like, this is not saying we're pushing for a playoff team in 2026. We're not there yet. It's going to be a fun season. It's going to be a fun season, man. I really do believe that, and that's what we said this offseason. Like, all you need to see in 2025 is steps taken and pieces locked into the core. If we see this team, what it's doing right now, having many different pieces pencil themselves into the core of the future, taking that and then adding these 2 or 3 pieces in the offseason, you're looking at a pretty fun team. Man.
Yeah, and like the fact that we're even talking about this a year removed from
Yeah,
being the worst team in baseball, like it's crazy to think how far the
yeah,
major league team has come in less than a year. Like I think
100%.
this time last year we were about ready to lose 20, 22, 24 in a row, something like that.
Yeah,
But like I would be more than happy signing a back end guy because the White Sox are the worst team in baseball in one run games.
yep,
We have, I think it's something like 29 blown leads now, something like that. It's crazy, but we saw how good a dominant closer can be in Liam Hendricks. Like it's no coincidence that the one of the most fun teams and the best years in recent White Sox memory had one of the best closers in the game in Liam Hendricks. I think he won AL Relief Pitcher of the Year in
yeah,
2021.
yeah.
Like the fact that you could hand a lead in the sixth inning over to Prelander Barreau in the seventh, Grant Taylor in the eighth, and then a closer in the ninth. Like,
Suarez or
how,
whoever,
yeah,
Diaz, or I mean,
how
again,
are you hitting that? How are you
yeah,
scoring a run?
there's a situation where this pitching staff is very good, and I think there's a situation where this hitting staff is at least solid, and that is
Right.
that's a pretty good spot to be in, all things considered. I want to do. We're going to wrap on two different things here. We'll save a deeper discussion on the top 30 for another time. That will be a whole other episode because we were just getting into this, and we should be getting into this because this is an exciting time. This has been a fun week for the White Sox, and we deserve to have some fun, man. I always try to
Yes,
be
we
optimistic,
deserve
and I
it
try to
so
enjoy
much.
things. Like people love to be negative about this team, and last year sucked. We know that, yes. And this also is a time where we're allowed to enjoy the fact that the ownership is shifting, that players are developing, that young guys are getting called up, that the team is playing good baseball, that the White Sox just had a positive winning record against the Tigers and the Royals this week. When the
Yeah,
heck has that happened in the past couple of years?
exactly.
Like we're allowed to have some fun. So two things. First of all, how many wins did the White Sox finish with in 2025?
66.
That's
I
that's
think that
about where I was going. I was going to go
I was,
64. I was being a little
yeah,
conservative. If this team doesn't lose 100 games, awesome. Great.
right. Yeah.
Like 100%,
Uh, Yeah.
100% awesome. Second thing, we will dive into it further. Actually, two more things. I got two more things for you. Who is the player that has not been called up yet right now that you are most excited to see get called up still this season?
If I'm assuming we see Schultz down the line, I'm not going to pick him because I feel like that's the obvious answer.
Yeah.
I'm I I really like I don't want to say a reliever, but like
I
Peyton
thought about it
Paulette,
too.
please
Yeah.
just help the bullpen. Like it's been so bad that I would be throwing parades if we saw Peyton Paulette get called up. Like
I
he
mean, Peyton Pallette and Grant Taylor finishing out games sounds pretty fun. I'm definitely
yeah.
down for that personally. I think that'd be fun. And then
Who's
we'll finish with
yours?
this. I thought about Paulette for sure. And then I went to Schultz because that's where it goes. And I'll go Wilkham and Gonzalez, though, honestly, too, because that's
Okay.
another guy out of the
Okay.
bullpen that I think will be another piece who I think, you could look at him as a pretty solid bullpen piece. And again, like there's going to be a lot of options for this team pitching wise. It's going to be a
Right.
lot of guys competing for spots. And that's why you have the luxury right now to flip a Hauser, of course, and then to flip a Davis Martin, man. I
Yep.
like Davis Martin a lot. I really do. But I don't know if Davis Martin has the ability to retain a rotation spot when you look at the other guys. In that situation, same thing with Jonathan Cannon, as much as I love Jonathan Cannon, like if you get the offers you want that have hitting talent for a Davis Martin, you got to take that swing, I think. So that's where I'm at with that one. The last thing I'll say, we'll do another episode another time. Briefly, who are a couple of the guys that are going to make your top 30 for the first time that you are fired up to talk about when we eventually do that episode in a couple weeks, potentially?
I'll give you two names. I
Yeah,
think I might steal one of your names. I might
probably,
steal
but it's
both of
okay.
your names actually. I'm going to go with Matthias Lacombe and Ryan Galaney. Both of those guys
Nice.
are.
Good.
Galaney was like I think he had him like 32 or 33 in the preseason, and I really wanted to put him on, but the struggles in Winston after his promotion, it kind of like is all right. We'll hold off on him for right now, but I mean he looks like one of the best hitters in that Birmingham
Yeah.
lineup, if not the best. And the fact that he's doing what he's doing with a sub 16 K rate, like you don't see that
Yeah.
from a older college player coming from a mid major like
Right.
Wofford. Like
His
that
contact
is
rates are crazy. Yeah. He's
yeah,
not whiffing
like
nearly as much as you
it
expect. Yeah.
it's such a fun profile, and I think that we've talked like he's having like a Tim Elko type rise. I think that he could be up in 2026. We didn't say him in the 2026 infield, but there is a world where, Tim Elko doesn't work out and don't sign a first baseman. I think he's like the next logical answer for that spot.
Right.
But for Lacombe, I mean, we've talked about him, I mean, a lot really, because like he went from being I want to say like unknown to now he's seeing top 20. I think he was ranked 20th by Baseball America a couple days ago. But
Which
like
is a little aggressive for sure,
yeah,
because we
I
haven't
don't
seen him
think
past the ACL, and he still hasn't even, the ACL numbers haven't been that great in terms of production, which I don't care about production there that much. But yeah,
right.
it's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, his metrics are really good, and he seems like he could be the first French-born MLB player, which would be pretty
Man,
fun.
that'd be cool. That'd be cool for sure. The other two, these two feel like they should be in the top 30, but like Christian Opera and Tanner McDougal were both not in the top 30 at the beginning of the season, and that's probably oversight, honestly, on our part. We hadn't seen much from Christian Opera, and he struggled in the
Right.
ACL last year with the baseline numbers. And McDougal last year really struggles in high A, goes down to single A, improves there, right? But like those two are like clear top 30 now for me. I think they both might even be top 20 for me, depending on, the way things go. So I think those two are two that I should definitely mention there that I'm super excited to kind of figure out where I'm going to rank them. I don't know exactly where I'm going to rank them. All I do know is they're going to be decently up my list, considering they weren't even in the top 30 at preseason. Another one that I think might crack, I'm not sure yet. Luis Reyes has been kind of cool to watch. I've only watched a couple of his games in Canny this year, but Luis Reyes is a guy who's kind of emerged from that young core of guys who was in the complex last year, and is a young dude who I think has shown the stuff of a top 30 prospect. It's very raw still, and there's a long way to go. But considering he's 19 years old and has already kind of had pretty solid strikeout numbers, it looked like he has good stuff, I think I could see Luis Reyes sliding into my top 30. So we'll finish up there. But any last thoughts, man? This has been fun. I appreciate everybody tuning in. This has been, I think, our biggest crowd we've had on a live so far. So thanks to everybody in the comments for hopping in and chatting with us. This has been cool. And again, it's like everybody, like, give yourself the chance to have some fun. Seriously, like, this is fun. Yeah. This is a fun week to be a White Sox fan that's not, we don't get those all the time. So like, enjoy those, cherish them, take what you can get from it. And we're going to keep rolling here. It's going to be fun.
Yep. It's been great. Like I said, perhaps the best White Sox week since 2021. So it's going to be better ahead, and hopefully in the 100%. Very near future. So again, thank you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Roundup.